Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I want you to picture something with me for a moment. A quiet house, a cozy chair, and an afternoon stretching out endlessly before you. It sounds peaceful, right? But what if that peace starts to feel like a prison? What if the sound of silence is so loud? You find yourself just waiting for a phone call, for a visit, for someone else to bring the sunshine in. We often think of our golden years as a time to finally relax, with our families taking care of everything. But what if that reliance, no matter how loving, slowly steals your sense of self? I want to tell you a story today about a man named Arthur. He had everything a person could ask for: a loving family, a comfortable home. But he was missing something profound. He was missing himself. His journey isn't just a story. It's a mystery waiting to be unraveled. How do you find happiness when you feel like you've already lived your best years? What are the secret ingredients to a life that is truly, deeply your own? Arthur found 5 of them, and I promise you, they will change the way you think about what it means to be happy. If you're ready to unlock these secrets with me, please hit that subscribe button right now. Your support helps us create more videos that can truly change lives. Arthur's mornings were a ritual of patience. He'd make his tea, sit in his favorite chair, and then wait. His whole world revolved around the ring of a phone or the buzz of a text. His family was wonderful, always checking in. But he couldn't shake the feeling that his entire purpose had been reduced to waiting. Have you ever felt that? That your days are defined by someone else's schedule? This is the first secret Arthur stumbled upon. Purpose beyond a schedule. He was so focused on being a loved part of their lives, he'd forgotten how to build a life for himself. There was a subtle, unspoken pressure in the air. When his kids called, he'd always say he was fine, never wanting to add to their stress. But behind his calm voice was a quiet emptiness. He felt like a project to be managed, not a person to be engaged with. And as his world got smaller, his loneliness grew. He had a family, but he was an island. This brings us to the second secret: a community of your own. How do you connect with others when you've lost the habit? How do you find your people in a world that feels so much bigger than your front door? He was a man trapped in a comfortable cage. Then, a flyer for a community center landed in his mailbox. A simple piece of paper offering a chess club and coffee with strangers. It seemed so insignificant. But to Arthur, it was a test of his own courage and curiosity. The thought of going was terrifying, but the thought of another year of quiet afternoons was even more so. Do you think he went? Let me know in the comments below. He knew he had to be curious again. He had to be a man with his own rhythm, his own interests, and his own life. This small piece of paper held a promise, a path to finding a sense of belonging outside his family. And he knew it was the first piece of the puzzle. If you're already feeling this story, please give us a thumbs up. It makes a huge difference. He went. With a heart pounding in his chest, Arthur walked into the community center. The sound of cheerful chatter was a shock to his system. He saw a group of men playing chess, and, with a bit of courage he didn't know he had, he sat down. He was rusty, he was a little awkward, but for the first time in a long time, he was lost in the moment. He had stumbled upon the third secret: the power of personal hobbies. His first move was a chess move, a literal and symbolic step toward reclaiming his own time and passions. Inspired, he went home and unearthed an old box of dusty paints from the attic. He hadn't painted in decades. As he set up his easel and squeezed out a blob of blue paint, the familiar smell and the feel of the brush in his hand felt like a reunion with an old friend. He was no longer waiting for his children to fill his time. He was actively filling it himself. He had found a source of peace that belonged entirely to him. But how could he share this? His daughter Sarah brought him a tablet and introduced him to a world he never knew existed. He learned to tap, swipe, and post pictures of his art. Comments from strangers started popping up. Stunning. Beautiful work. This was the fourth secret he uncovered: digital literacy and connectivity. He had always seen technology as a way for others to check on him, but he now saw it as a way to connect with the world and a way to share his world. He started video chatting with his family, seeing their faces and hearing their laughter. The conversations were no longer one-sided check-ins. He had stories to tell, and his children were fascinated. He had gone from being a passive observer of his life to an active participant, and his confidence was growing with every small step. He was building a life that was rich and fulfilling, and it was entirely his own creation. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on our next helpful video. Arthur's new life was a ripple effect. His relationships with his family began to change in wonderful ways. When his kids called, they weren't checking in. They were asking about his life. The conversations were no longer driven by obligation, but by genuine curiosity. He had something to offer. He was interesting again. He was a person, not a project. But he realized one more crucial piece of the puzzle was missing. While organizing his papers, he came across a pile of unopened bank statements. He had always let his son, David, handle everything. It was easier that way. But now, with his new sense of independence, he felt a surge of curiosity. He realized the fifth and final secret: financial independence and planning. It wasn't about the money itself. It was about the peace of mind that came with being in control of his own future. He called a financial advisor and started making a plan. The peace that came with this knowledge was profound. He was no longer a passenger on the journey of his own life. He was in the driver's seat. He was making decisions and creating his own roadmap. This was the ultimate gift he could give his family, the knowledge that he was secure and self-reliant. One Sunday, his whole family gathered at his house. The atmosphere was different. Laughter filled the air, and they all listened intently as he told them about his latest adventure. He saw the pride in their eyes, a pride that wasn't just for a father they loved, but for a man they genuinely admired. The old feeling of loneliness was gone, replaced by a deep sense of contentment. He had built a life that was rich and fulfilling, and it was entirely his own creation. He had a purpose, a community, hobbies, digital connection, and financial security. The front door of his home, once a boundary, was now a gateway to a life that was truly his own. He was a living example of what true peace and happiness look like, and he had created it himself. If this video resonates with you, please share it with a friend who might need to hear this message. As Arthur embraced his new life, he found his curiosity extending to his physical well-being. He had always been pretty active, but his routine walks around the block had become a bit of a habit, not a source of genuine health. He heard a few of his chess friends talking about a low-impact exercise class at the community center. The idea of group fitness was foreign and, frankly, a little intimidating. But he pushed past that feeling and decided to give it a try. He was on a quest for something more, and this was the next clue. This was the fourth secret he uncovered: intentional health and wellness. He realized that health wasn't just about avoiding sickness. It was about actively pursuing vitality. He started with the class, a gentle yoga session that focused on stretching and balance. At first, he felt awkward and a bit out of place, but he found a quiet satisfaction in the slow, deliberate movements. He noticed his aches and pains starting to lessen, and his sleep improved. He wasn't just going through the motions. He was connecting with his body in a way he hadn't in years. The physical activity released a kind of energy he'd forgotten he had, and it made the moments he spent on his hobbies even more enjoyable. If you're learning from Arthur's journey, please like this video. Every like helps us reach more people who need to hear this message. The newfound focus on his health also led to a more mindful approach to his diet. He began to cook more, trying new recipes he found online or learned from his friends at the community center. Cooking for himself wasn't a chore anymore. It was an act of self-care. He realized that relying on his kids to drop off prepared meals, while kind, had disconnected him from the simple pleasure of nourishing his own body. He started a small herb garden on his windowsill, another little act of self-sufficiency that brought him immense joy. This pursuit of intentional wellness had a profound effect on his mental state. He felt sharper, more energetic, and more optimistic. He noticed that the anxiety he used to feel when the phone didn't ring had faded. He was too busy living his life to worry. His new friends at the community center became a source of motivation and encouragement. They swapped healthy recipes and exercise tips, creating a supportive network that went beyond simple social interaction. He wasn't just existing in his home anymore. He was thriving in it. The house, once a fortress, had become a base camp for a much bigger adventure. This was a testament to the fact that true independence wasn't just about financial or emotional freedom. It was also about taking personal responsibility for your own physical and mental well-being. He was no longer a passenger on the journey of his own health. He was the captain. As Arthur embraced his newfound independence, he found that his relationships with his family began to change in wonderful ways. The conversations were no longer check-ins driven by obligation. Now, when his daughter Sarah called, she was genuinely curious about the new friend he met at yoga class or the new herb he was growing. His sons, David and Michael, began to see him not as a parent to be managed, but as a person with a vibrant, exciting life of his own. The dynamic shifted from one of caregiving to one of genuine connection. This brings us to the final and most crucial point. Arthur learned that the greatest gift you can give your family is the peace of mind that comes from being self-reliant. By building his own community, his own purpose, and his own plan, he had freed his children from the silent pressure of being his sole source of happiness. They could now enjoy their time with him simply because they wanted to, not because they felt they had to. His happiness was no longer a burden they had to carry. One Sunday, his whole family gathered at his house for a big dinner. The atmosphere was different. Laughter filled the air, and they all listened intently as he told them about his latest adventure. He saw the pride in their eyes, a pride that wasn't just for a father they loved, but for a man they genuinely admired. The old feeling of loneliness was gone, replaced by a deep sense of contentment. He had built a life that was rich and fulfilling, and it was entirely his own creation. He had a purpose beyond waiting for the phone to ring, a community of his own, hobbies that brought him joy, the ability to connect with the world through technology, and the security of a healthy, well-planned future. He was a vibrant, independent person who happened to have a loving family. Not just a senior whose entire identity was father or grandfather. The front door of his home, once a boundary, was now a gateway to a life that was truly his own. He was a living example of what true peace and happiness look like, and he had created it himself. If this video resonates with you, please share it with a friend who might need to hear this message. So, there you have it. Arthur's story isn't just a fairy tale. It's a blueprint for a life that is truly your own. It's a reminder that while family is a profound source of love and support, your happiness is ultimately your responsibility. True peace in our later years isn't found in waiting for others to provide it, but in the courageous act of building it for ourselves. What's one thing you can do this week to start building your own foundation for happiness, health, and peace? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Every like, share, and subscribe helps us create more videos that can make a real difference. So please consider supporting the channel. Thanks for watching. Hit the bell icon for the daily updates. Please do like, subscribe, and share with your friends.